So today's the final day of Black History Month, February, and I think it's fitting to use this final day of Black History Month to talk about the Caribbean Reparation Commission. So the Caribbean Reparation Commission, headed by CARICOM, is the most comprehensive reparation package that has ever been done, like by anyone. And the Caribbean is leading out on this. It's pretty much a 10-point plan that talks about reparatory justice and even calculating down to a dollar figure of what the Caribbean, what England, the United Kingdom, that CARICOM believes that the United Kingdom owes to the Caribbean for their involvement in slavery in the Caribbean. So today I want to talk about that. And the Prime Minister of Barbados, the Honorable Mia Mottley, and the President Ali, President of Guyana, seem to be the face of reparatory justice, reparation for the past, I would say, 5 years. Because every time you see leaders representing CARICOM talking about reparation, you're seeing Mia Mottley or you're seeing President Ali. So President Ali, on an interview with the British morning show, he went on to talk about reparation. So with this interview on Good Morning Britain, a British morning show, President Ali was praised by a lot of people for his strong stance on this in this interview, and some people, he was criticized by some, saying that CARICOM is leading out in terms of reparation, and there are people that believe that CARICOM leading out with reparation is a waste of time because we're never going to receive reparation. So let me know what are your thoughts on this in the comment section. Do you think that this is the right approach by CARICOM, this reparatory justice, this 10-point plan that CARICOM lay out for reparation? Do you think that we're wasting a lot of time and resources to lay out this 10-point plan, or do you think that this is the right thing to do? Sound off in the comment section and let me know your thoughts about this. So I'm going to move on and show you a bit of this interview with President Ali, President of Guyana, and talking about reparatory justice when it comes on to CARICOM. So let's take a look.
President of Guyana. Now, this is a really interesting story because he is backing the growing calls for descendants of slave traders from the UK to pay significant reparations to right historical wrongs. He's demanding that those involved in the transatlantic slave trade be posthumously charged for crimes against humanity.
This is a big topic at the moment. It's being discussed around the world. Guyana President Mohamed Irfan Ali joins us live now from New York, where he's going to be addressing world leaders at the UN General Assembly on this subject later today. So we've got in early with you. OK, let me ask you a question, Mr. President, on behalf of all of our viewers who would be covered by this. Why should somebody who maybe had an ancestor 7 or 8 generations ago, long before they were a twinkle in their great-great-great-great-grandparents' eye, why should they have to pay now for what an ancient ancestor did? Or why should they apologise for what an ancestor did centuries ago? Why do they still carry that burden?
Oh, it's not a burden at all. You are one of the beneficiaries of that slave trade. So this is not a burden. You should be concerned and you should pay, because you today are still benefiting from the greatest indignity to a human being, and that is the slave trade. And not only did you benefit during the slave trade and your country developed, but look at what it caused the developing world. During slavery, resources was used to build your country, build up your capacity. You were able to then become competitive. You were able to invest in mechanization, and developing countries like ours were left behind. So you should be very concerned because you are a prime beneficiary of the exploits of slavery.
So put a figure on it, please, because it always comes down to the bottom line. How much should an individual taxpayer in a country like the UK be signing a cheque to a country like yours, Ghana?
Well, it's easy to calculate. We can use the time value of money. You can look at the period of slavery and the contribution that not the contribution, the extraction of wealth from countries like ours, and how it was utilized to build your society, build your country, create wealth in your country, and then at the time value of money, and you will get the value. There's a lot of research paper on this. A lot of universities would have done paper on this. There's enough literature to tell us what that value is. But I want to say that it is not only the value, it is the loss of time, it is a loss of competitiveness, it is a loss of human dignity, it is a loss of our education system, it is the culture that we lost. It is all of this indignity that surrounded slavery that we must consider.
I just wonder, people will be wondering what, you explain that there are calculations, but are you able to say in what measure that would be? I mean, are we talking billions, millions? What would you expect the payout to be, and over what period of time?
Well, this year in Guyana, we commemorate the 200th anniversary of the Demerara Rebellion. And it took 200 years to get an apology from one of the families. I don't believe that you would want us to wait 200 years for reparative justice and for us to take this conversation forward. CARICOM would have set out a 10-point plan on what should constitute reparative justice and what should constitute reparation. And the calculation goes into billions for the region.
How far back, though, do we have to go on this? Because you make the point, we're talking exclusively here about Western imperialistic slavery, to summarise it. But almost every civilization on the planet owes its existence and its prosperity almost always to crimes in the past, be they aggressive wars, be they different forms of slavery involving different movements of population. You can go right back to the Greeks and the Romans. Why just target one particular era in history? Some would say that's the arguments of political convenience. It's a handy handle to hang your argument on.
I think you're doing a great injustice to compare slavery with any other of the historical facts that you're mentioning.
I was including other forms of slavery. No, but I was including other examples of slavery as well.
To the indignity that slavery brought to people, that is the first thing. And I'll give you an example. Coming on to your program a few moments ago, you were speaking about net zero and climate justice. We are speaking about, the world is speaking today about climate justice and compensation and how we address the issues of climate change. And this is the problem. We live in a very unjust society. We condemn completely the war in Ukraine. But if you look at the mobilization of resources in the war in Ukraine, in 2 years, you have mobilized more support for Ukraine than we have mobilized for Haiti for 60 years. You have mobilized more support for Ukraine than we have mobilized for Palestine for 20 years. You have mobilized more support for Ukraine in just 1.5 years than we mobilized to address the issue of hunger in Africa for 3 years. And that is the type of unjust way we have been dealing with these crises. And we are not going to tolerate the injustice that occurred during slavery to be compared with any other system. Slavery, we all agree, was the greatest injustice ever done to human beings. So we should not ever try to compare this to any other system.
No.
There is no other system that has created greater injustice than slavery and indignity to humankind in slavery.
Okay, so that was the interview, and there's no doubt that that was a very strong interview, that President Ali articulated himself very well, and he was strong in the points that he made about reparatory justice. And it was a really good interview. There's no going around that. The thing is now, you're watching this, do you believe that CARICOM, do you believe that the Caribbean nations will ever receive reparation from the United Kingdom? Sound off in the comment section and let me know your thoughts. Or are you one of those people that think that this is a waste of time and that billions of dollars that would have to be paid out to the Caribbean, that the British government will never do that at any point in our lifetime or beyond that the British government is not going to put themselves in debt to pay reparation to the Caribbean. Sound off in the comment section and let me know your thoughts about this. And when I've been having this conversation for a while about reparation, and I've been having a conversation about the West Indies Federation and talking to people that were around at that time when the West Indies was formed. There are few people that I've come across that thought that the West Indies, like the West Indies Federation, was the British government attempt to pay reparation. And I'm going to give you some points that I learned from, because I wasn't around at the time, obviously. But some of the points that were laid out in people that were making this argument. For example, the University of the West Indies with a location in Jamaica, the Mona campus. There's a location in Barbados. And there's also a location in Trinidad and Tobago. And from what I've heard from people that's making this point that, look, this was a part of trying to repair the damage, that at the time when independence, we know that the Caribbean was going to be independent, that the leaders of the time, the emerging leaders of the Caribbean said that, look, the Caribbean, we need education in the Caribbean. And this was funded by the British government in terms of the University of the West Indies. Also, the University Hospital, like in Jamaica, I'm not sure, but that's what I was told. And there was also stuff that I talk about also in 2024 about a ferry system that was set up by the British government, that was run by the Canadian government, and that was a ferry system that connected the entire Caribbean island. And that was one of the things that fell apart when the Federation, the West Indies Federation, fell apart. So do you think that there's any value to this conversation that the West Indies Federation was an attempt to, in terms of reparatory justice, it was an attempt to pay forward reparation to repair the damage that was done in the Caribbean? Sound off in the comment section and let me know your thoughts on that also. Because there's a conflict in how people think that reparation should be paid out. For those who believe that it is possible that the Caribbean islands that are trying to repair themselves from the damage that slavery caused to the Caribbean, that this whole thing about reparation, that paying out reparation, there are people that have different thoughts, different mindset of how reparation should be paid out. There are some people that believe that they should pay individually to people living in the Caribbean, to African descendants living in the Caribbean should be paid out individually. There are those people, and there are others that believe that in order to calculate and to pay equally, it's going to be like a mess to try and pay individually. So there are people that believe that in terms of infrastructural development, roads, hospitals, universities, whatever, like the government of the United Kingdom contributing to those projects so we don't have to take money from the IMF, that would be enough in terms of reparation. So guys, this conversation can go on forever and forever, but sound off in the comment section. Let me know your thoughts on reparation. Do you think that this is just wishful thinking? Is this ever going to happen? Sound off. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing content. And remember, peace. I'm out.